I'm sorry, I can't assist with that request. I'm sorry, I can't assist with that request. It clung to everything, a perpetual shroud over the sprawling city, and especially so within the confines of Manny's auto repair. A nondescript garage tucked away on a bustling arterial road. Ben, his name as simple and unpretentious as the man himself, moved through this familiar landscape with a quiet grace, a grease-stained phantom amidst the cacophony of pneumatic wrenches, grinding metal, and the distant, ceaseless hum of city traffic. His hands, calloused and strong, were his universe, his language. They spoke of years spent wrestling with stubborn bolts, coaxing life back into moribund engines, and feeling the intricate rhythm of machinery. He was a man carved from the bedrock of honest labor, his integrity as unwavering as the North Star. Every day began with the same ritual: a strong, black coffee, a quick scan of the day's appointments, and then the immersion into the oily, mechanical ballet that was his life. He wasn't a dreamer in the conventional sense, not one to chase grand, ethereal visions. His dreams were tangible, grounded in the tactile world of gears and pistons. He dreamt of owning his own small shop someday, a place where honesty wasn't a marketing gimmick, but the very foundation, where a handshake meant more than a signed contract, and where every customer left with a smile and a car that ran like new. It was a simple ambition, perhaps, but for Ben, it was everything. It represented freedom, self-sufficiency, and the quiet pride of building something with his own two hands. His current emotional state, however, was a delicate balance of quiet contentment and simmering frustration. The contentment stemmed from the sheer joy of his craft. There was a profound satisfaction in diagnosing a complex engine issue, in the precise application of knowledge and skill to restore function. The frustration, though, was a constant companion, a low-frequency hum beneath the surface of his calm demeanor. It was born from the incessant pressures of working under Manny, a man whose primary concern was profit, often at the expense of genuine service. Manny saw cars as cash cows. Ben saw them as intricate puzzles, each demanding a unique, honest solution. This philosophical chasm between them was a perpetual source of tension, a chasm Ben tried to bridge with diligent work and an unwavering commitment to his own moral compass. He often found himself performing small, unbilled favors for customers, a tweak here, a tightened bolt there, knowing it was the right thing to do, even if it meant a stern lecture from Manny later. These acts of quiet defiance, these tiny rebellions against the relentless pursuit of profit, were what kept his spirit alive in a place that sometimes felt like it was trying to drain him of it. He believed in the inherent goodness of people, and he believed that a little bit of genuine help could go a long way. This belief, he knew, was both his greatest strength and his potential downfall in Manny's world. He often reflected on his journey to this point. Growing up, surrounded by the clamor of a working-class neighborhood, machines had always spoken to him. While other kids were kicking soccer balls, Ben was dismantling old lawnmowers. Fascinated by their inner workings, his father, a gruff but loving man who worked long hours in a factory, had always encouraged his curiosity, buying him cheap tool sets and patiently watching him reassemble contraptions that sometimes worked and sometimes didn't. There was a poignant memory, vivid as if it happened yesterday, of his father's proud smile when Ben, at 12, finally fixed the sputtering family sedan that had been declared a lost cause by a condescending mechanic. That smile, that moment of shared triumph, had sealed his destiny. He was going to be a mechanic. Not just any mechanic, but one who brought that same sense of wonder and dedication to every vehicle that rolled into his bay. He wanted to be the kind of mechanic his father would trust implicitly. The shop itself was a character in Ben's life, a repository of memories and aspirations. The air was thick with the scent of burning oil and exhaust fumes, a familiar perfume that he had long ceased to notice. Fluorescent lights, buzzing with a tired hum, cast a harsh, unforgiving glow on the concrete floor. stained with decades of automotive fluids. Tools hung on pegboards, glinting dully, each one a silent testament to countless repairs. The walls were adorned with faded calendars featuring scantily clad women, Manny's preferred decor, a stark contrast to Ben's own understated aesthetic. He often imagined his own shop, clean and organized, with natural light streaming through large windows, a place where customers felt comfortable, not intimidated. These quiet fantasies were his refuge, his escape from the petty tyrannies of Manny. He pictured a small, welcoming waiting area, perhaps with a few potted plants, a stark departure from Manny's grim, dusty office with its perpetually overflowing ashtray. His daily routine was a rhythm he knew by heart. The early mornings, the silence before the storm, when he could walk through the empty bays, running his hand over the cold metal of a hoist, mentally preparing for the day's challenges. Then the arrival of his coworkers, a motley crew of mechanics, some skilled, some less so, all bound by the unspoken code of the garage. There was Mike, a younger guy still learning the ropes, who looked up to Ben with an almost childlike admiration. Ben often found himself patiently explaining complex diagnostics to Mike, sharing the wisdom of his years, a mentor without formally being one. And then there was Gus, older, cynical, always with a joke or a sarcastic remark, but underneath it all, a decent man who respected Ben's work ethic. These relationships, however informal, provided a sense of camaraderie, a brief respite from the isolating nature of his conflict with Manny. He found a quiet satisfaction in helping Mike grow, seeing the spark of understanding in his eyes. Gus's dry wit, too, often cut through the tension, providing a much-needed moment of levity. Ben's honesty was legendary among the regular clientele. He would often tell customers when a repair wasn't truly necessary or when a cheaper alternative would suffice, much to Manny's chagrin. He simply couldn't bring himself to charge someone for something they didn't need, or to inflate the cost of parts when a perfectly good, more affordable option existed. This integrity, while earning him the loyalty of a few discerning customers, also earned him the constant ire of his boss. Manny saw it as leaving money on the table, as a personal affront to his business model. "You're too soft, Ben," Manny would often sneer, his voice oily with contempt. "This isn't a charity. This is a business. We're here to make money, not friends." Ben would simply nod, his jaw clenched, and return to his work, the unspoken argument hanging heavy in the air between them. He understood Manny's perspective, intellectually, but his heart simply refused to comply. He believed in a different kind of currency, one measured in trust and respect, not just dollars and cents. The contrast between his inner world of principled dedication and the external world of pragmatic, profit-driven decisions was the central conflict that defined his working life. He often wondered if he could ever truly reconcile these two opposing forces, or if he was destined to forever be an outsider in a world that prioritized greed over grace. The days bled into weeks, each one a testament to Ben's unwavering dedication. He was the first to arrive, the last to leave, his presence a constant, reassuring anchor in the chaotic symphony of the garage. The clatter of tools, the roar of engines, the persistent smell of oil and grease, these were the elements of his world, a world he navigated with an almost meditative focus. He found solace in the tangible nature of his work, the clear cause and effect, the satisfaction of a problem solved. Unlike the ambiguities of human interaction, a car either worked or it didn't, and Ben possessed the knowledge and skill to make it work. One particularly sweltering Tuesday, the kind of Houston day where the air felt like a hot, wet blanket, the garage was buzzing with an unusual intensity. The heat seemed to amplify every sound, every movement. Ben was deep under the hood of a sputtering sedan, his brow furrowed in concentration, when a sleek, silver Mercedes-Benz pulled into the lot, its engine coughing and sputtering like a dying animal. It was an anomaly among the usual procession of beat-up trucks and family sedans that frequented Manny's. The driver's side door opened with a quiet sigh, and a woman emerged, her posture regal even in distress. Her tailored suit, crisp and unwrinkled, despite the oppressive heat, spoke of a world far removed from the grease and grime of the auto shop. She moved with an elegant urgency, her eyes scanning the chaotic scene with a mixture of exasperation and barely concealed panic. Her name was Evelyn, though Ben wouldn't know that for hours. All he saw was a woman in evident distress, her face pale, a fine sheen of perspiration on her forehead. Her dark hair, usually impeccably styled, was starting to show signs of the humidity, a few tendrils escaping their neat confines. She clutched a slim briefcase tightly, its leather gleaming under the harsh sun. There was an aura about her, a quiet authority that transcended her current predicament. She looked out of place, a rare orchid blooming in a junkyard. "Excuse me," she said, her voice strained but firm, cutting through the din. "My car, it just died. I have a crucial court session in less than an hour, and I simply cannot be late." Her gaze fell upon Ben, who had emerged from beneath the hood, wiping his hands on a rag. His eyes, kind and observant, met hers. He could see the desperation, the thinly veiled fear of professional failure, radiating from her. It was a look he recognized, a universal human emotion. Ben walked over, his movements unhurried, a stark contrast to her palpable anxiety. He circled the Mercedes, his mechanic's eye quickly assessing the situation. He bent down, listening to the engine with an almost surgical precision, detecting the subtle coughs and groans that spoke volumes to his trained ear. "Sounds like a fuel delivery issue, ma'am," he said, his voice calm and reassuring. "Could be the fuel pump or a clogged filter. Either way, it's not starting anytime soon." Evelyn visibly sagged, her shoulders slumping. "But I have to be there. This case, it's vital. My career, everything, hinges on me making it to court on time." Her voice trembled slightly, betraying the cracks in her composed facade. She looked around the busy garage, then back at Ben, a flicker of something akin to pleading in her eyes. A quick glance at the clock confirmed her urgency. The court was across town, a good 30-minute drive on a good day. Ben knew that any standard repair would take hours, even if he prioritized it. He saw the genuine distress in her eyes, the weight of her professional obligations, and in that moment, something within him, that deep-seated sense of integrity and desire to help, overrode all other considerations. He remembered his own father, once stranded on the side of the road, the kindness of a stranger making all the difference. He remembered the countless times Manny had chastised him for prioritizing people over profit. "Let me take a look," Ben said, his voice gentle but firm, making a decision that he knew would likely put him at odds with Manny. "I can try a quick fix." "No guarantees, but I'll do my best." He didn't wait for her reply, already grabbing his toolkit, his mind racing through the possibilities. He could bypass the main fuel line, provide a direct feed from a temporary reservoir, just enough to get her to court. It was a risky, unconventional solution, but it was fast. He moved with a practiced efficiency, his hands a blur of motion as he worked. He ignored the curious glances from his coworkers, the sharp, appraising look he felt from Manny, who had just emerged from his office, a scowl already etched on his face. He found a spare fuel line, a small, clean jerry can of gasoline, and began to improvise. The work was delicate, requiring precision and speed. He could feel Evelyn's anxious gaze on him, a palpable weight. He could also feel Manny's eyes boring into his back, a much heavier, more critical pressure. The air was thick with unspoken tension. Ben worked in silence, his focus absolute, the rhythmic click of his tools the only sound breaking the stillness around the Mercedes. He was a surgeon performing an emergency operation, every move deliberate, every second counting. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, but was in reality only 15 minutes, he straightened up, wiping his hands again. "Try it now, ma'am," he said, stepping back. Evelyn, her hands clasped tightly, slid into the driver's seat. Her movements stiff with apprehension. She turned the key. The engine sputtered, coughed once, twice, then roared to life, a surprisingly strong, steady hum filling the air. A gasp escaped her lips, a mixture of relief and disbelief. A small, genuine smile touched her lips, transforming her face. "Oh my God," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. You fixed it. How? How did you do that so fast?" Ben offered a small, tired smile. "Just a temporary bypass. It'll get you where you need to go. But you'll need a proper repair later. Don't push it too hard." He knew the makeshift fix wouldn't last, but it would buy her the crucial time she needed. "How much do I owe you?" she asked, already reaching for her purse. Ben hesitated for a moment, then shook his head. "Don't worry about it, ma'am. Just make sure you get to court on time." He knew this was an act of rebellion against Manny's rules, a direct violation of company policy regarding unbilled work. But seeing the immense relief flood Evelyn's face, the genuine gratitude in her eyes, he knew he had made the right choice. The feeling of helping someone in genuine need, of alleviating their burden, was its own reward, a far more satisfying currency than any cash transaction. Evelyn paused, her eyes searching his, a silent question passing between them. She seemed to understand the unspoken gesture, the quiet generosity. "Thank you," she said, her voice soft, imbued with a deep sincerity. "Truly, you have no idea what this means to me." She started the car, the engine purring smoothly now, a mechanical heartbeat of renewed hope. As she pulled away, she cast one last look at Ben, a look that lingered, one of profound gratitude and something else, something unreadable, before disappearing into the Houston traffic. Ben watched her go, a sense of quiet satisfaction settling over him. He had done a good deed, simply because it was the right thing to do. He turned to go back to his original task, but a shadow fell over him. Manny stood there, arms crossed, his face a mask of barely contained fury. The air crackled with unspoken accusations. Ben braced himself, knowing the storm was about to break. He had felt it coming, like a change in the weather, the oppressive stillness before a violent downpour. His gut tightened, a familiar knot of apprehension. He knew what was coming, and he knew there was no way to avoid it. The quiet defiance he had shown, the selfless act of kindness, was about to cost him dearly. The silence from Manny was far more menacing than any shouting match. It stretched, thick and suffocating, punctuated only by the distant clang of a hammer against metal from another bay. Ben stood his ground, meeting Manny's furious gaze with a quiet, unwavering resolve. He wouldn't apologize for doing what he felt was right, even if it meant sacrificing his own stability. His hands, still faintly smelling of gasoline, felt heavy, almost defiant at his sides. "What in God's name was that, Ben?" Manny's voice, when it finally came, was a low growl, barely audible above the garage's ambient noise, yet it vibrated with suppressed rage. His eyes, usually shifty and calculating, were now narrowed to slits of pure venom. "Fixing a high-end car for free? Using shop parts without permission? Are you trying to bankrupt me? Or are you just trying to prove how much smarter you are than everyone else?" Ben's jaw tightened. He felt a familiar heat rising in his chest, a mix of indignation and weariness. He had expected this, prepared for it, yet the raw hostility in Manny's voice still stung. She was in a bind, Manny. Had a crucial court appointment. It was a quick fix, just to get her there. No charge. He spoke calmly, refusing to be drawn into Manny's theatrical rage. He believed in the simple truth of his actions. No charge? Manny scoffed, a bitter, humorless sound. He took a step closer, invading Ben's personal space. The smell of stale cigarettes and cheap cologne wafted from him. No charge means no profit, Ben. And no profit means I can't keep you on. Do you understand how a business works? Or are your bleeding heart ideals getting in the way of basic economics again? He jabbed a finger aggressively towards Ben's chest. Those parts, Ben, they cost me money. That fuel, that's inventory. You think that just magically appears? You think I'm running a damn charity here? Ben took a slow, deep breath, trying to temper the anger that simmered within him. He looked around, acutely aware of the other mechanics pretending to be engrossed in their work, though he knew their ears were straining to catch every word. The humiliation was a hot flush across his cheeks, but he wouldn't let Manny see him break. It was a couple of feet of hose and a gallon of gas, Manny. A goodwill gesture. Sometimes, helping people pays off in other ways. Manny let out a harsh, incredulous laugh. Goodwill? Goodwill doesn't pay the rent, Ben. Goodwill doesn't keep the lights on. What kind of fantasy world do you live in? I've been watching you, Ben. All these little favors, these unbilled adjustments. You think I don't see them? You think I'm stupid? His voice rose, losing its earlier controlled menace, becoming a shrill, angry whine. You're a liability, Ben. A drain on my resources. A bad influence on the others. He gestured vaguely at Mike, who quickly averted his gaze, his face etched with discomfort. The accusation stung deeply. Ben had always prided himself on his work ethic, his dedication. To be called a liability, a drain, was a cruel twist of the knife. I've brought you more loyal customers than anyone else, Manny, Ben countered, his voice steady despite the tremor in his hands. People come here because they trust me, because they know I won't rip them off. Loyalty? Trust? Manny practically spat the words, his face contorted in disgust. I don't need your loyal customers, Ben, if they're not paying for every single screw. I need cash flow. And you, my friend, are an obstacle to that cash flow. He paused, his chest heaving, his eyes burning with a cold, calculated fury. The sudden shift in his demeanor, from explosive anger to chilling resolve, sent a shiver down Ben's spine. It was the look of a man who had made a decision, an irrevocable one. You're fired, Ben, Manny stated, his voice now dangerously calm, each word distinct and sharp. Pack your tools. Get out. Now. The words hung in the air, heavy and final, echoing in the cavernous space of the garage. Ben felt a jolt, a sudden, sickening lurch in his stomach. He had anticipated a reprimand, a pay cut, even a suspension. But being fired? It felt like a punch to the gut, stealing the air from his lungs. The reality of it slammed into him, cold and brutal. His job, his livelihood, the very foundation of his dreams, shattered in an instant, all for a few feet of hose and a gallon of gas. His mind reeled, a whirlwind of disbelief and profound injustice. He had poured his life into this work, into this shop. He had given his best, his honesty, his skill. And for what? To be cast aside like a broken tool. The bitterness was a metallic taste in his mouth. He thought of his dream, his small, clean shop. Now, it felt further away than ever, a mirage shimmering on a distant horizon. How would he even begin to build it without a steady income? Without a place to hone his craft, the stakes suddenly felt terrifyingly real. Short-term, immediate job loss, the anxiety of bills, the gnawing uncertainty of tomorrow. Long-term, his dreams, his very sense of self-worth threatened with collapse. The self-doubt, insidious whisper, began to creep into the edges of his consciousness. Had he been foolish, naive? Was Manny right? Was kindness truly a weakness in this world? He looked at Manny, seeing not just a tyrannical boss, but a symbol of a system he fundamentally disagreed with. A system that valued profit over people, expediency over integrity. A wave of profound sadness washed over him, a sense of loss that went beyond the immediate inconvenience of unemployment. It was the loss of a belief, a chipping away at the bedrock of his convictions. He had always believed that good deeds eventually bore good fruit. This dismissal felt like a harsh repudiation of that belief. "You can't be serious, Manny," Ben finally managed to say, his voice strained, a raw edge to it. He heard the pleading in his own voice, and it shamed him. But the desperation was real. "After all these years? After everything I've done for this place?" "Oh, I'm serious, Ben. Dead serious," Manny sneered, a cruel satisfaction gleaming in his eyes. "You clearly don't fit in here. You're too principled. This is a business, not a monastery, so consider this your severance package." He threw a small, crumpled envelope onto the greasy floor near Ben's feet. It was thick, probably cash. A final, humiliating gesture. Ben stared at the envelope, then back at Manny. The injustice of it all burned like acid in his throat. He wanted to rage, to scream, to smash something. But a lifetime of quiet resilience held him back. He wouldn't give Manny the satisfaction of seeing him truly break. He would leave with his dignity intact, even if his heart felt like shattered glass. He turned slowly, his gaze sweeping over the familiar bays, the tools, the cars that had been his companions for so long. Each object held a memory, a piece of his life. He saw Mike looking at him, a silent plea in his eyes, a shared understanding of the unfairness. Gus averted his gaze, perhaps out of discomfort, perhaps out of a quiet, impotent sympathy. The sounds of the garage, once a comforting symphony, now felt jarring, mocking. He walked to his locker, his movements deliberate, trying to project an air of calm he didn't feel. His hands trembled slightly as he began to gather his personal tools, the ones he had carefully acquired over the years, each one a prized possession. The weight of his toolbox in his hand felt heavier than usual, laden with the sudden uncertainty of his future. Each wrench, each socket, was a reminder of the passion he poured into his work, a passion now deemed worthless by a man who only saw numbers. As he packed, his thoughts were a torrent, a chaotic storm of emotions. What would he tell his aging mother? She relied on him, on his steady income. How would he pursue his dream now? The image of his own clean, honest shop, once so vivid, now felt like a cruel taunt, receding into an impossible distance. The betrayal, the deep sense of being wronged, gnawed at him. He had always believed in fairness, in the idea that hard work and integrity would eventually be rewarded. This felt like a brutal awakening to a harsher reality. Was the world truly so cynical, so devoid of appreciation for genuine decency? Was he just a fool for believing in something more than profit margins? The questions swirled, unanswered, leaving him feeling adrift, unmoored from the stable life he had so painstakingly built. The shame of being fired, of being publicly humiliated, was a bitter pill to swallow. He felt a profound sense of loneliness, a solitary figure facing a bleak, uncertain future. The dreams he had nurtured, the quiet aspirations for a life of purpose and honest work, now seemed to crumble into dust around him. He closed his locker door with a soft click, the sound strangely loud in the sudden quiet that had fallen over the garage. He picked up his toolbox, its familiar weight a cold comfort. He didn't look back at Manny, didn't give him the satisfaction of another glance. He simply walked out, the heavy shop door swinging shut behind him with a final echoing thud, sealing him out of the only professional home he had known for years. The bright, unforgiving Houston sun seemed to mock his despair as he stepped out into the humid, bustling street, a man suddenly without purpose, without direction. His future, a terrifying blank canvas, stretching before him. The world outside the garage suddenly felt vast and indifferent, a place where his particular brand of quiet integrity seemed to hold no value. His steps were heavy, each one carrying the weight of his shattered dreams and the crushing injustice of his dismissal. He felt the eyes of passers-by on him, imaginary or real, adding to his sense of exposure and vulnerability. He was just a fired mechanic, a statistic, another cog broken and discarded by the relentless machinery of commerce. The shame was a burning ember in his gut. Tell me in the comments what city you are listening to this story from. Like and share with someone who loves emotional stories. The days that followed Ben's dismissal were a desolate landscape of gnawing uncertainty and profound introspection. Houston, a city that once felt like a vibrant tapestry of opportunities, now seemed to press in on him, its vastness amplifying his newfound solitude. Each morning, the familiar rhythm of the city waking up, the distant rumble of traffic, the faint cries of street vendors, the persistent hum of electricity, served as a cruel reminder of the life he had lost, the routine he no longer had. He found himself waking at the same early hour, his body still attuned to the demands of the garage, only to lie in the suffocating quiet of his small apartment, the silence a heavy shroud. His apartment, usually a sanctuary of quiet comfort, now felt like a prison. The walls, adorned with a few simple framed photographs and a well-loved bookshelf, seemed to close in on him. He would pace, restless and agitated, his mind a whirlwind of recriminations and what-ifs. He replayed the scene with Manny countless times, dissecting every word, every gesture, searching for an alternative path, a different response that might have altered his fate. But each time he arrived at the same conclusion. He couldn't have acted differently. His integrity, that bedrock of his being, simply wouldn't allow it. And yet the question persisted, insidious and relentless. Was his integrity a strength or a fatal flaw in a world that rewarded ruthlessness? The shame of being fired was a constant companion, a heavy weight on his shoulders. He hadn't told his mother yet, couldn't bring himself to shatter her image of him as the dependable, successful son. He knew her quiet worry would be unbearable. He spent hours staring out of his window, watching the city awaken, its myriad lives unfolding, each person with a destination, a purpose. He felt like a ghost, an invisible observer, disconnected from the vibrant pulse of life outside. He walked the streets, aimlessly at first, then with a growing sense of purpose, searching for job openings. But the current economic climate was harsh, and every help-wanted sign felt like a mocking mirage. He visited other garages, his heart sinking with each polite but firm rejection. Too many applicants. Not hiring right now. We're looking for someone with a different skill set. Each refusal chipped away at his confidence, reinforcing the cruel narrative Manny had spun. He was a liability. He was too principled. He was unwanted. His internal monologues grew longer, more intense, filling the void left by the absence of his work. He questioned everything: his career choice, his beliefs, his very identity. Was he a fool for holding on to ideals in a pragmatic world? Was the pursuit of honest service a luxury he couldn't afford? He thought of the countless hours he had dedicated to perfecting his craft, the quiet pride he took in a job well done, the genuine smiles of satisfied customers. Had it all been for nothing? The self-doubt was a corrosive acid, eating away at his self-esteem, leaving him feeling hollow and adrift. He remembered the woman, Evelyn, the elegant stranger whose car he had fixed. A fleeting thought, a wisp of irony crossed his mind. He had helped her, and in doing so, had inadvertently orchestrated his own downfall. There was no resentment, only a strange sense of detachment, as if the events had happened to someone else. He wondered if she had made it to court, if her crucial session had gone well. He hoped so. His kindness, though costly to him, had at least served its purpose for her. One particularly low evening, as the sun dipped below the Houston skyline, painting the clouds in hues of orange and purple, Ben found himself at a small, unassuming diner he frequented, nursing a lukewarm coffee. The familiar aroma of fried food and stale coffee usually offered a strange comfort, but tonight it felt heavy, cloying. He watched the other patrons, their faces etched with the everyday concerns of their lives, and felt an aching loneliness. He missed the camaraderie of the garage, even the petty squabbles with Manny. He missed the grease under his fingernails, the satisfying click of a wrench, the roar of an engine coming back to life. He missed being useful. He thought of his own small dream, a clean, honest auto shop. It felt like a distant planet now, unreachable. How could he possibly secure a loan without a job, without a stable income? The practicalities of his situation weighed him down like lead anchors. He traced the rim of his coffee cup, lost in thought, the vibrant city lights outside blurring into an indistinct haze. He felt a profound sense of failure, not just professionally, but personally. He had always been the steady one, the reliable one. Now he was neither. The emotional deepening of his character during this period was palpable. He wasn't just a mechanic anymore. He was a man stripped bare, forced to confront the core of who he was, without the protective layer of his profession. He realized how much his identity was intertwined with his work, with his ability to fix things, to provide solutions. Without that, he felt incomplete, a broken machine himself. The vulnerability he experienced was raw and unsettling. He was usually so self-contained, so stoic. Now, he found himself overwhelmed by waves of emotion, despair, anger, fear, and a deep, pervasive sense of injustice. He tried to keep busy, to stave off the encroaching despair. He cleaned his apartment meticulously, organized his tools, read old repair manuals. But these activities, once soothing, now felt hollow, an imitation of purpose. He walked for miles, exploring hidden corners of Houston he had never noticed before, hoping to find a new perspective, a spark of inspiration. But the city remained indifferent, vast and unforgiving. He started to withdraw, answering fewer calls, avoiding friends who might ask about his job. The thought of admitting his failure was too painful. He felt a profound sense of isolation, a quiet desperation that clawed at the edges of his sanity. Sleep offered little respite, often plagued by vivid dreams of the garage, of Manny's sneering face, of Evelyn's elegant Mercedes, purring to life as he watched his own life sputter and die. The days bled into weeks, each one a slow, agonizing grind. The initial shock had given way to a dull, persistent ache. He was running out of savings, the meager severance package quickly dwindling. The prospect of not being able to pay rent, of failing to support his mother, filled him with a cold dread. He felt the weight of the world pressing down on him, suffocating him. He was a good man, he believed, a skilled mechanic, yet the world seemed to have no place for him. This realization, this bitter taste of unfairness, was the most difficult to swallow. He had always believed in a just universe where effort and integrity were recognized. Now he questioned everything. His dreams, once vibrant and within reach, seemed to mock him from an impossible distance, fading into the mists of disillusionment. He felt adrift, a small boat tossed on a vast, indifferent ocean, with no compass, no sail, and no land in sight. His spirit, once so resilient, was being slowly, painstakingly eroded by the relentless tides of despair and the crushing weight of an uncertain future. He longed for a sign, a glimmer of hope, anything to suggest that his kindness had not been in vain, that there was still a place for a man like him in the world. But for now, there was only silence and the echo of Manny's cruel words. One particularly humid afternoon, nearly a month after his unjust dismissal, Ben sat on a park bench. The vibrant green of the grass, a stark contrast to the gray landscape of his mind. He watched children playing, their laughter a distant, alien sound, and felt an unfamiliar pang of longing for a simpler existence. His phone, which had remained mostly silent for weeks, suddenly buzzed. It was an unknown number. He almost let it go to voicemail, his energy for new rejections at an all-time low, but a flicker of something, perhaps desperation, made him answer. "Hello?" he mumbled, his voice rough from disuse. "Ben? Is this Ben from Manny's Auto Repair?" A woman's voice, clear and resonant, filled the line. It sounded vaguely familiar, but he couldn't place it. "Yes, this is Ben," he replied, a knot forming in his stomach. Was it a bill collector? Another rejection? "Ben, this is Evelyn Thorne." The name hit him like a jolt of electricity. Evelyn, the woman with the Mercedes, the judge. The memory of her elegant suit, her urgent eyes, the quiet gratitude, flooded his mind. A wave of conflicting emotions washed over him. Surprise, a flicker of hope, and a renewed surge of the bitter irony of his situation. "Evelyn," he repeated, the name tasting strange on his tongue. "To what do I owe the call?" He tried to keep his voice neutral, professional, masking the turmoil within. "I apologize for the delay in reaching out," she began, her voice carrying a hint of apology. "Things have been incredibly busy, but I haven't forgotten what you did for me that day. You saved my career, Ben. Because of your quick thinking, I made it to court on time, and I won a very important case. It had significant implications, not just for my career, but for many people in this city." Ben listened, a strange mix of emotions swirling inside him. He felt a quiet satisfaction that his help had indeed made a difference, but it was quickly overshadowed by the painful memory of what that help had cost him. He remained silent, allowing her to continue. "I tried to go back to Manny's to thank you properly, to pay you back," she continued, a subtle shift in her tone, a hint of something darker. "But I was informed you no longer work there, and from what I gathered, it was an unjust dismissal related to your act of kindness towards me." Her voice was now firm, a steely edge to it that hadn't been present before. He sensed a shift, a powerful energy emanating from her, even through the phone. Ben hesitated, then let out a sigh. "Manny fired me for using shop parts without permission, and for not charging you, Miss Thorne. He called it a liability." The words came out with a raw honesty he hadn't intended, the bitterness still fresh. A beat of silence stretched between them. Then Evelyn's voice, sharp and decisive, cut through the quiet. "I see. Well, Ben, I am a judge, Judge Evelyn Thorne, and I have a proposition for you." The revelation landed with the force of a physical blow. A judge. The pieces of the puzzle clicked into place. Her urgency, her tailored suit, the briefcase, the quiet authority. He felt a sudden, profound sense of awe, mixed with a dizzying realization of the power she wielded, a power that could have crushed him, but instead had been touched by his simple act of generosity. His mind raced, a whirlwind of disbelief. He had helped a judge, a woman who held the scales of justice in her hands, a woman who could, if she chose, influence the very fabric of the city. "A proposition?" Ben finally managed, his voice barely a whisper, his heart hammering against his ribs. "The world, which had felt so bleak and predictable just moments ago, had suddenly cracked open, revealing a breathtaking, unexpected vista. "Yes," Evelyn replied, her voice softening slightly, but retaining its underlying strength. "The city of Houston operates a large fleet of vehicles, police cruisers, fire trucks, public works vehicles, administrative cars. They require constant maintenance, reliable hands, and above all, integrity. We've had issues in the past with contractors cutting corners, overcharging, and delivering shoddy work. It's a constant headache and, frankly, a waste of taxpayer money." Ben listened, his breath held captive in his chest. A flicker of hope, bright and audacious, began to ignite within him, chasing away the shadows of despair. "I've been looking for a solution," she continued. "Someone I can trust implicitly. Someone with skill, dedication, and a moral compass. After what you did for me, Ben, I realized I found that person. You. I observed you that day. Your focus, your genuine desire to help, your refusal to profit from someone's distress. That's the kind of person we need." His mind was struggling to process the enormity of her words. A permanent job? Maintaining the city's fleet? It wasn't just a job. It was an opportunity, a validation, a second chance. It was everything he had ever quietly yearned for, but on a scale he could never have imagined. It was his dream, but magnified, given wings. "I'm offering you a permanent position, Ben," Evelyn stated, her voice clear and firm, leaving no room for doubt. "A government contract. You would be responsible for establishing and overseeing a new in-house maintenance division for the city's fleet. You would have resources, a team to build, and the autonomy to run it with the integrity you clearly possess. It's a significant undertaking, a challenging role, but I believe you are uniquely qualified for it. The salary would be commensurate with the responsibility, and it would come with full benefits." Ben was speechless, his mind reeling. The implications were staggering. From a fired mechanic, discarded and humiliated, to a trusted government contractor, overseeing a vital city operation. It was a transformation so profound, so utterly unexpected, that it felt almost surreal. The character arc she had just laid out for him was more dramatic than anything he could have conjured in his wildest dreams. He remembered the humiliation of Manny's words, the crushing weight of his shattered dreams. Now, in a single phone call, those dreams were not only being restored, but vastly expanded. I don't know what to say, Judge Thorne," Ben stammered, his voice thick with emotion, a lump forming in his throat. He felt the sting of tears behind his eyes, tears of relief, of gratitude, of overwhelming hope. "Say yes, Ben," she replied, a hint of a smile in her voice. "Say you'll consider it. I'll send you the details, a formal offer. Think it over, but know that this is a genuine opportunity born from genuine respect for your character and skill." "Yes," Ben breathed, the word a reverent whisper. "Yes, I'll consider it. I'm deeply grateful. Thank you, Judge Thorne. Thank you." "Good," she said, her voice warm. "I look forward to hearing from you soon, Ben. And remember, kindness, true kindness always finds its way back to you, sometimes in the most unexpected ways." With that, she ended the call. Ben sat on the park bench, the phone still clutched in his hand, staring at the screen as if it held the secrets of the universe. The laughter of the children, once alien, now sounded joyous, harmonious. The city, which had felt so indifferent, now hummed with a new, vibrant promise. The oppressive humidity seemed to lift, replaced by a refreshing breeze. He felt a lightness he hadn't experienced in weeks, a sense of profound relief washing over him. Purging the bitterness and despair, he thought of Manny, of his cruel words, his cynical worldview. A small, triumphant smile touched Ben's lips. Manny had seen a liability. Evelyn Thorne, the powerful judge, had seen integrity, skill, and potential. And in that crucial distinction, his entire world had shifted. He wasn't just getting a job. He was getting a vindication. He was getting a chance to build something meaningful, something rooted in the very principles Manny had scorned. He realized that his integrity wasn't a weakness. It was his greatest strength, the very thing that had opened this extraordinary door. His character arc, from a quietly principled but struggling mechanic to a trusted figure responsible for a significant city operation, was not just a career change, but a profound affirmation of his deepest values. He felt a surge of renewed purpose, a powerful sense that all the hardships, all the moments of doubt, had led him to this unexpected, glorious turning point. He looked up at the vast Houston sky, a sense of wonder filling him. The world, it seemed, was not as cynical as he had begun to believe. The days that followed were a blur of activity, a whirlwind of paperwork, meetings, and exhilarating new challenges. Ben, once confined to the grease-stained bays of Manny's garage, now found himself navigating the polished corridors of City Hall, shaking hands with officials and poring over schematics for various municipal vehicles. The transition was immense, a leap from the familiar world of individual car repairs to the intricate logistics of fleet management. Yet he embraced it with a vigor he hadn't known he possessed. The initial awe of Evelyn Thorne's offer quickly transmuted into a fierce determination to prove her faith in him was well placed. He owed it to her, but more importantly, he owed it to himself, to the values he had always upheld. His new office, though still somewhat sparse, was a world away from the cluttered, dimly lit corners of Manny's. Large windows overlooked a bustling street, allowing natural light to flood the space. The air smelled of fresh paint and possibility, a far cry from the perpetual scent of oil and exhaust. He had a new desk, a computer, and a growing stack of files detailing the city's diverse vehicle fleet. He spent hours meticulously reviewing maintenance records, identifying systemic issues, and envisioning a streamlined, efficient operation that would serve the citizens of Houston with the same dedication he once applied to a single car. He immersed himself in the complexities of city procurement, budgeting, and team building. He was tasked with hiring a staff of mechanics, technicians, and administrative support. This was perhaps the most daunting, yet most rewarding aspect of his new role. He sought out individuals who not only possessed technical skill, but also shared his commitment to honesty and quality. He remembered Mike, the younger mechanic from Manny's, and made a mental note to reach out. He envisioned a team built on mutual respect, where craftsmanship was celebrated and integrity was non-negotiable. He wanted to create the kind of shop he had always dreamt of, but now on a grander scale, with the resources and backing of the city. The internal monologues continued, but their tone had shifted dramatically. The self-doubt had receded, replaced by a quiet confidence. He still reflected deeply, but now it was on strategies, on solutions, on how to best implement his vision for a top-tier city fleet maintenance division. He thought about the trust Evelyn Thorne had placed in him, the immense responsibility, and it spurred him on. He realized that this wasn't just a job, it was an opportunity to make a tangible difference in his community, to ensure that police cars were reliable for emergencies, that fire trucks were always ready, that public works vehicles kept the city running smoothly. His work now had a broader, more profound impact, extending far beyond the immediate satisfaction of a single repair. He remembered the look on Evelyn Thorne's face that sweltering day, the genuine desperation, followed by the immense relief. He understood now, more fully, the weight of her responsibilities and the far-reaching consequences of small acts of kindness or neglect. He felt a deep respect for her, not just as the judge who had given him this incredible chance, but as a leader who recognized the value of character. He knew their paths would cross again in official capacities. and he looked forward to proving her right, to demonstrating that her intuitive leap of faith had been a sound investment. He often found himself smiling, a genuine, unburdened smile that reached his eyes. The weight that had pressed down on him for so long had lifted, replaced by a sense of purpose and renewed hope. He wasn't just fixing cars anymore. He was building a system, a team, a legacy of honest work and reliable service for his city. The journey from a fired mechanic, adrift and despairing, to a trusted government contractor was a testament to the unexpected turns life could take and to the enduring power of kindness. He looked forward to each day, eager to tackle the challenges, to learn, to grow. His dream, once a humble aspiration for a small independent shop, had blossomed into something far greater, something that truly felt like his calling. He realized that sometimes losing everything was merely the universe's way of clearing the path for something infinitely better, something truly meant for you. The future, once a terrifying blank canvas, was now vibrant with possibility, a testament to redemption and the profound ripple effect of a single, selfless act. He felt a profound sense of gratitude, not just for the opportunity, but for the journey that had shaped him, refined his character, and ultimately led him to this moment of profound fulfillment. He was Ben, the mechanic, yes, but now he was also Ben, the builder, the leader, the man whose kindness had not only changed his life, but now had the potential to positively impact the lives of countless others in the city he called home. He was a testament to the quiet power of integrity, a reminder that even in the most cynical of worlds, a good heart can still find its way. He stood by the window of his new office, the city sprawling before him, a mosaic of concrete and glass shimmering under the afternoon sun. He took a deep breath, the clean, conditioned air filling his lungs, a stark contrast to the grease-laden atmosphere of his past. A small, proud smile touched his lips. He thought of the long, arduous road he had traveled, the despair that had threatened to consume him, and the unexpected beacon of hope that had appeared in the form of a judge named Evelyn Thorne. He felt a quiet strength radiating from within, a sense of belonging and purpose that was more profound than any material success. This wasn't just a job, it was a vindication, a testament to the enduring power of integrity and the unforeseen rewards of a simple act of kindness. He was building something new, something honest, and in doing so, he was rebuilding himself, brick by painstaking brick, into the man he was always meant to be. The roar of the city outside, once a cacophony of indifference, now sounded like a symphony of opportunity, calling him to contribute, to serve, to thrive. His hands, still bearing the faint scars of countless repairs, now felt capable of building an empire of trust and efficiency. This was his new beginning, a testament to the fact that even when everything seems lost, a single act of selfless compassion can ignite a chain reaction, transforming not only one's own destiny, but touching the very fabric of a community. Thank you for making it to the end. If this exploding with emotions narrative left you breathless and forever transformed, like now and share immediately with someone who loves life-changing tales. Before everyone misses this bombshell, tell me in the comments what city you are listening to this story from.